Hello and welcome. My name's Nightchronic, and today I'm taking a look at my top 10 Hunter exotics in Destiny 2 Season of the Hunter. Season of the Seraph. Oh, whatever, man. It is definitely Season of the Titan, let me be clear, but it was funny to say. And of course, I have made a spreadsheet for this video, which can still be found at my Discord server, link in the description down below on the channel #SpreadsheetStocks. And of course, as always, these spreadsheets and these videos would not be possible without the support of my patrons on Patreon. So if you want to see them continue, please consider checking out link in the description down below. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. On screen right now is my spreadsheet, all of its beautiful goodness for all the different Hunter exotics in the game, which all have a PvE and PvP rank for every single exotic in the game, as well as previous seasons if you wanted to take a look at that. And of course, through this video, we'll be going through the top 10 and talking about why they're in the meta. Keeping in mind that if it's not in the top 10, it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that it just didn't fit in a list of 10. There are a lot of great exotics that I still use that didn't fit. And I will avoid making an innuendo about what I just said, and please do not do so in the comments below. First up on our list at number 10, we have the Celestial Nighthawk, an exotic that just barely escaped the culling yet again. I believe Celestial Nighthawk was probably at number 1 for the most time over the last 8 years of being a Destiny series. That being said, as soon as it stopped becoming the DPS king with Falling Star on Titans, and now with Starter Scales and Orpheus rig nowadays on pretty much all the other supers, it has fallen quite a ways. And if you look at the bottom, there's actually a tab for supers that I have actually done the calculations with all of these things, and you can see that Nighthawk is no longer near the top. That being said, it's still a very high amount of DPS and still a lot better than almost every heavy in the game, if not every heavy in the game. And furthermore, it is infinite range. You spawn 2 orbs if you get a headshot, and if you get a kill, you get a third of your super back, which makes it something you can use on champions and grandmasters. Following that at number 9, we have the Orpheus rig. Yet again, another great exotic, actually really good for DPS that I use pretty often. First of all, you get ability energy, which includes super energy from your deadfall tethers, which is the big one, and Mobius Quiver has an additional shot, so instead of 2 shots, it's 3 shots. Keeping in mind, the first shot hits the enemy regularly, the second shot hits it with a weaken effect, and the third shot also hits a weaken effect. So it's not just 50% more damage, it's like 60 to 70% more damage. And you can obviously see that here in the rankings. Orpheus rig is actually better than Nighthawk as far as DPS goes, and total ammo damage by a long shot, on top of weakening enemies, making your teammates do more damage as well. And to be clear, Starter Scales is better DPS, but obviously it does require orbs. After that, at number 8, we have the Raiden Flux, which honestly is one of the least used great exotics in the game. Essentially, your Arc Staff, which is not Gathering Storm, it's the one you actually have to melee attack with, lasts a whole lot longer as long as you're getting quick successive hits against enemies, and you do more damage with it. And something that a lot of people are overlooking is that the longer you're in your super, the longer you have resistance, even more resistance with that dodge thing, the longer you're taking the attention of all the enemies, and of course, the more you can do damage to all of the regular enemies, and frankly, you do a lot of boss damage as well. And something that's actually really important to note, if you have a long team damage phase, Arc Staff ends up being one of the best options. For something like Rogue, for example, a very long DPS phase, because you run out of heavy ammo so quickly in something like Gallahorn, Arc Staff can often be a better choice. Following that at number 7, we have the Gear Falcon's Hallberg, which was absolutely dirty last season in PvP. They did a bit of a rework, and now it's pretty dirty in PvE. So if you haven't heard of it, essentially your void weapons get volatile rounds as soon as you exit invisibility. And on the Hunters, there's like 3 ways of getting invisibility very easily: your dodge, your melee, and Stylish Executioner. And with that, Stylish Executioner, whenever you kill a target that is affected by a void debuff like volatile rounds, you go invisible and get True Sight. So you can see the pattern here. You exit invisibility, get your volatile rounds, hit people with those rounds, they die, you get invisibility back, and you do that process over and over again, making it a very fun option to use for just CC across the board. However, it's actually a good option for damage output as well, especially with a fast fire rate weapon like a void heavy machine gun. You put volatile rounds on a boss and you just start unloading on the boss. He continually explodes, doing a lot of DPS. And keep in mind, heavy machine guns are not good DPS options, but not only is this going to increase the DPS by a significant margin, it also stuns the boss considerably. And on top of that, if you finish an enemy while invisible, you get a damage buff. Yes, it has more on top of that. And furthermore, I think your teammates also get an overshield to their class ability. I don't know why it has so many different things on it. And I love the perk. It's called See Me, Feel Me. Ooh. That's, I'm sure I can make an innuendo on there. Don't try it. Following that at number 6, we have the Wormhouse Crown. It's quite simple. Most people have heard of it. It's been out for almost the start of the game. You get a small amount of health and shields after a dodge, which you can dodge every 15 seconds. Back in my day when it first came out, you could dodge every 9 seconds and it would also start regeneration. This thing used to be bonkers. And obviously this is going to be more of a PvP exotic, although you could probably use it in PvE if you find yourself dying a lot. In PvP, it's obviously very useful to be able to dodge to get more health back, re-engage with more health against the enemy, they'll be really surprised, or escape with more health, which allows you to escape more effectively. And of course, it's universal to be used across every subclass. Following that at number 5, we have the Omnioculus, an exotic that used to be absolutely busted back, I think 2 seasons ago, where you could make your teammates invisible in Crucible and make them take 50% less damage. Was really way too strong. Since then, they obviously have nerfed the level of resistance. I think it gave you resistance ×4 before if you had Omnioculus. And on top of that, invisibility, you don't have your radar anymore. On top of obviously showing up on the radar, blinking every once in a while invisible, which can be annoying. If your teammates make you invisible, you lose your radar, you may want to break out of it. Keeping in mind, the invisibility is still a strong option, making it so enemies can't see you, you blink less often on the radar, and obviously aim assistance on you is harder to track. However, obviously, PvE, it's going to be a lot stronger. First of all, not seeing your radar, not a big deal in PvE. Invisibility, allowing it so the enemies will not see you, and you also get a damage resistance to all your teammates who are invisible. And furthermore, obviously you have double smoke bomb for overflow charging, and you get your full smoke bomb back for hitting 2 teammates. Invisibility essentially being one of the best options for hunters in the endgame PvE like Grandmasters, and is definitely something you're going to use very often. Following that at number 4, we have the young Amkaro Spine. Probably one of the few ways that the hunters can get away with not using stasis in the Crucible these days. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about backrest. And this exotic has a number of different things that it gives you. First of all, it increases the trip mine grenade's duration, blast radius, and its damage. It doesn't say this, but it does increase its damage. And furthermore, it makes your trip mines take a lot more damage, like 5 to 10 times as much damage before blowing up. It gives you inherent fastball, cause why not? And any ability damage, your melee, your super, and your grenade give you trip mine grenade energy. And furthermore, if you put a trip mine and a proximity explosive knife on the same spot, you can instant kill a guardian. There are a lot of great things about this that actually make solar worthwhile using. Not to mention the ignites that you're definitely going to be getting with your trip mines and your knife. And it's also a really strong option in PvE as well, allowing for, again, really good scorch, ignite builds with lots of ability spam. Following that at number 3, probably the best PvE exotic for hunters, we have the Star Eater Scales, and probably one of the best PvE exotics in the game. And as I showed you before, for super damage, Star Eater Scales gives you up to 70% more damage to any super for getting 4 orbs of power. And I know that this is going to be the biggest thing that people talk about, is that, oh, you have to get 4 orbs. Getting 4 orbs of power, it's not hard to do. You just have to put a helmet mod on and get like 8 kills, and your teammates can get them as well. In a raid with 6 people, you should never be short on orbs. And furthermore, you actually get more super energy from picking up orbs until your super is full. And let me be clear, I already thought that hunters had the best supers in the game when it comes to boss DPS pretty much across the board, and Star Eater Scales gives it 70% more damage. After that, at number 2, we have the Dragon Shadow, which is pretty much the hunter ninja armor. And if you played Crucible, you probably see the vast majority of hunters using this exotic, considering that it's incredibly effective for all the different subclasses, and it's very accessible. Essentially, dodging reloads all of your weapons, which is kind of like auto-loading and very convenient, increases both your movement and weapon handling for a brief period of time. Keeping in mind, at the maximum tier 10 mobility, you can dodge every 15 seconds, and this lasts for around 10 seconds, allowing you to have this incredible speed most of the time. And furthermore, increasing movement technically increases your mobility by 20, so you only need a tier 8 to have tier 10 most of the time. And when it comes to the weapon handling speed, it's faster than Quick Draw ever was, faster than any maximum handling. It is insanely quick. And furthermore, you have faster aim down sights movement speed, which is also very nice to have. And being universal, you can use it pretty much on everything. If you want to be a ninja, it's Dragon Shadow, not Bombardiers. And finally, at number 1, we have the Mask of Backrest. And I've chosen this exotic for a number of different reasons. First of all, I just want to say this exotic is actually decent in PvE. It can be used for a stacking arc and slow damage buff, which is nice to see, but primarily in PvP to combat the Titan menace. Right now, probably the best class in PvP and probably the game are gonna be Titans, primarily for the Arc Titans, and in Crucible for the Titan Ramparts Arc Juggernaut Titans. And one of the best ways to deal with that is going to be a Stasis Dome Grenade. You throw that on their shield, they have to back up through that, and with Mask of Backrest, you can teleport through that shield and mess them up. On top of obviously that teleport, being able to avoid all damage entirely is just a really strong thing to have. On top of it being one of the only Stasis specific exotics that you can really use, other than obviously Dragon Shadow, which is universal. And it's a weird thing to say that Titans are the best in the game. As a Titan main, I've been looking forward to this, but I don't know how I want to feel. It's been hunters for like, 80% of the time. And of course, if there was an exotic that you think that I underappreciated, let me know in the comments down below. Keeping in mind that I can only pick 10 for a top 10. And just because it wasn't in the 10 doesn't mean it isn't good. And of course, a big thank you to my patrons on Patreon. Without their help and your continued help, I may have to stop doing spreadsheets. Specifically, a big thank you to Mom, Dad, Kibashal, Rob Strayer, Waffle, Monday, Steve Bachman, Unipanther, Case Reagan, and William Peterson for their support on Patreon. And that's it. Hope you guys did enjoy it. My name is Iconic, and I'll see you guys on the next one.